So I'm not sure how true this might be, but this is just what I'm hearing. Like when it comes to the concept of spirituality and religion, like I think a spiritual person, you have to be a spiritual person in order to come up with the concept of religion. You have to be a person filled with good ideas and good thoughts and the desire to lay down a foundation to come up with the idea of being spiritual. I think spiritual people just have a innate desire to do something good or light in them. And I say that very carefully because I'm not trying to say that light means that you're a good person. And so that means that, so it would mean that darkness makes you a bad person. No, I think that the concept of light and dark are, you know, forces that exist in this world. And humans are, the human mind and consciousness are materials. The mind is the paintbrush, and the consciousness is the material, and reality is the canvas. So these forces can be applied to consciousness and materials, which is the material to create, I guess, concepts or like modes of thought that you can travel and use in reality, but, then you gotta, in special cases, you can apply nature. But what I'm saying is that don't feel discouraged if you're having thoughts of like, do I have light in me or do I have darkness in me? Like, don't think about it that way. Think about just where your thoughts are going. Where are my thoughts going? And think about the different type of structures and plans and ideas that have already been put in place by the people that came before you. And then, when you have time, reflect on like why you think they're in place. Like the people that are policymakers, the people that are leaders, why do they put certain things in place? Is it to be in alignment with divine's law? Is it to keep order and balance, to keep things in alignment? It takes a certain amount of discipline. It takes a certain amount of energy. It takes a certain amount of self-care. It takes a certain amount of preparation and a certain amount of time, patience with yourself, your emotions. While they putting these things together, I'm sure they're having thoughts and feelings, going through their bodies, and they constantly gotta make it responsible. They have to constantly be responsible with their thoughts and making sure their actions are aligned with their thoughts, because they're representing something greater, and they're providing a blueprint or a guideline for the public to follow. And these things are all made for like in times of crisis or in times of great importance where everybody needs to follow something that could potentially save you or, keep people safe, keep the children safe, keep kids safe. So again, back to what I was saying, like the concept of religion, I think, was a concept developed to get spiritual people to come together and, build on the spiritual side of things, to build on things that are intangible, that, to build on faith, to build on you know, the, the desire to do something good, the desire to be in alignment with, those benevolence ideas and desire to do good. That's what I think. I think that, the title or the word religion gets a bad rep among people that are in their teens and 20s and 30s because they're still finding their path. By the time you get in your 40s, even early and late 40s, but by the time you get that far, you've kind of developed a certain way that you want to navigate life. But for the ones that are in their 20s and 30s, they're in their 20s and teens, it's like you're being told what to do, and you're trying to figure out if you need to continue to follow this path or break away and find your own way. So, more people tend to say I'm spiritual, which is kind of amazing in that sense, because it's like, how do you know that you're spiritual? How can you say certain things so confidently and then question certain things? What in you allows you to, be so confident in something that is not, you can't even see it. It's like, can you see spirituality? It's like you can't see it. It's not something you can grab hold of. It's like aligned with like faith and all these other things that are just like words or ideas or feelings or states of consciousness, states of the mind. So, I say that to say that, like, when people ask me, what's your religion? It's like, I'm not claiming any of them. I'm saying that I'm spiritual. I'm saying that I'm a student to life. I'm saying that I'm following what I think is going to help me stay focused, stay confident, and stay able to continue to become that best version of myself. And I understand that religion is like different schools of spirituality. You can go to different teachers and learn different things, And so with that, it's like, you got to be careful what door you go into, because it might be having you, of course is meant for something good, but you just want to make sure that the actions and the people that are inside are really aligned with what you're believing or what you're striving towards. So that's why it reigns. It's like you can't really commit too much to it, and of course you got to put your foot down and be grounded in something. And spirituality is like, it's no real way to be grounded in it, because it's like the prerequisite. And like religion is like, okay, I'm moving forward and taking a stance on these fundamental principles and these concepts and these ideas. And so with that is like, you got to really be sure of yourself. And with there being so much information out there, it's like, how can you be sure of yourself? And so if there's so much information, then you got to fall back from the technology and the social media and actually trust that there are still people in this world that actually still have done the important work of preserving truth, preserving what really is important to, basically, can I look at this information and get a sense of, man, this is something good? Can I look at this? Can I listen to this person and smile and be like, man, thank you, you saved me? Can I look at this and be like, man, like, this feels right in my heart, So it's like, it's those things that you're kind of looking for to check off, because the information, it's like, it's hard. It's like, where's the information coming from? Where did you get this information from? You don't want fake information. You want to be misguided. You know, that's something that those are my concerns. Is it ethical? You got ethical concerns, which is okay to have because everything, is there are people that are dishonest out there in the world. I say that because I don't know the other person. I don't know other people's intent, and I gotta mind my own business. I gotta work, instead of going out trying to find, that's why the concept of the investigator or the researchers exists. It was for, of course, I'm sure it was to genuinely understand, but you gotta be the people that are generally wanting to understand and research gotta make sure their egos are in check. They're not doing it to gain power for evil intent. You gotta make sure that that's not why you're going out to research. That's not why you're going out to understand. You're not going out with ill intent. You got a grudge. You got a desire to do bad or harm. It's like it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. And you talk about like fear and fear is like you do that because you don't got to do it. Takes more work to really sit down and guide somebody from a vulnerable state. You know how hard it is to be like, I'm the teacher here, but I'm also vulnerable. I'm being vulnerable with you because I don't know everything, but I'm still wanting to be the teacher and guide you and teach you everything that I've learned, and hope that you're going to take what I've taught you and go out and, do something good and do something that can help the next person. To hope each one teach one. I'm sure that's where that concept came from, because when you step out into a world that's like, you got to make sure that you keep your armor on, both spiritually, physically. You want to make sure that you make it back to that safe space to where you can keep growing and learning. Because again, it goes to this thought of like, why was I born? Why did I come here in the first place? I carefully say that I'm sure you came here for an important reason to do something good. Because it's just like, why not? I carefully touch on the topic of like death. It's like, you came here just to die. That's it. So that means death has something really important to teach you. Death must have something really important to teach you. So, be mindful of what I'm saying. Hopefully everything that I'm saying, that you were able to follow me and understand that. Again, going back to, like spirituality and religion, it's like carefully open doors of, thought. You got to carefully open these doors of thought because some are more polarizing than others. Some are more impactful to your mind and to your way of life than others. Why? I'm not sure if I need to travel down that road of asking why. You got the who, what, when, where, why, how. These essential questions. Which ones are going to help you stay focused? Which ones are going to help you stay confident? Which ones are going to help you stay compassionate? Which ones are going to help you understand, the importance of being aware of how the 7 sins affect the body? Which ones are going to help you reflect on the concept of love? Which ones are going to help you remember that reflection is important? Which ones are going to help you remember that being mindful is important? Which ones are going to help you remember that, you don't have to understand everything to go out and still have a fulfilling life? don't have to have everything to have a fulfilling life. You know, which ones are going to help you understand that the world is very big. You know, there's a lot out here. There's a lot out here that's going to be checks and balances. You know, so it's like you want to stay aligned. Which ones are going to help you realize that, you know, I have to do inner work. I have to be disciplined enough to do the inner work. And it may hurt sometimes doing the inner work, but at least I'm hurting myself and not going out and hurting anybody else. You know, it's like a good hurt. It's hurting for the right reasons. It's like, when I say hurt, I want to let you know that, like, try doing push-ups. Try physically pushing your body to a certain point to where you get exhausted, and then got to think to yourself, I got to do one more. You know, it's like try going out and you know, like, I say this very carefully, but like, you know, I don't even got to get that extreme. Try growing your own food. You know how much patience it takes. You know, so when people come up with technology that the people that come up with the technology to make growing your own food more efficient, it was because they realized how hard it was to do the previous work. You know, to do the previous work. Or even let's say not food, let's talk about cars. The people who came up with the concept of cars understood how long it took to travel, to walk on foot. Let's say to deliver a package, and it was just like, they had the idea of like, if only I could just move a little bit faster. And then, you know, the ideas started formulating of like, well, I can give you the materials, I can give you the blueprint for it to move faster. And you just got to think that there was somebody out there that knew. Somewhere out there in this world, or in this cosmos, or in this universe knew. So they may not have been human. They may not have been, you know, it could have just been like nature. It could have just been the observing nature, you know. So understanding how powerful observation is, you know, understanding that, you know, like, a lot of the stuff that they put out in the movies and stuff like that, the subliminals, it was there in hopes that somebody with a quality modes of thinking, or concepts of thinking, like, they understood that, okay, you know, there might be a bit of bad in here, but can you find a silver lining? So, you know, is that silver lining thought of like that thread that you got to navigate. You got to apply to everything. Like, once you understand the concept of silver lining, you got to apply it to everything. So again, going back to spirituality and religion, like, you got to have a silver lining. Like, if I'm going through this door, the silver lining is supposed to help you stay towards the way, the middle path. The way for me means the middle path. It means staying in alignment with what's good. You know, what keeps everything in alignment. That means that whatever was already established before I got here, the consciousness entered into my vessel, entered into my thoughts and actions, that it's not messing up that feng shui. It's not messing up that what was already established, you know, to keep. Because if I come in and give you a concept that I thought of that is so totally polarizing that it causes you to, it becomes counterproductive. It's like, okay, it's gonna fuel negative action. It's gonna fuel that downward descent of, like, you know, we know where that leads. I carefully say chaos or destruction, or, you know, like fear and, you know, disorder. It's like, it's gonna fuel all of that. So, you know, the silver lining of what I'm thinking is like, you only got one mouth, so it's important. You got two ears, so I'm listening more. I'm listening to what makes sense. So me understanding that, now I'm getting a whole bunch more thoughts coming in. So I gotta discern the thoughts and thinking, discern where it's coming from. Then speak from a from careful consideration of not just myself, but for who may be listening, and their level of understanding. It could be a baby that's so in tune, but the reason that they're so in tune is because they're missing other things. They're still growing, so maybe they're so in tune with the light, with this type of consciousness, is because they haven't learned how to speak yet. They haven't fully developed their organs. They haven't learned advanced forms of thinking or formulating concepts. You know, they haven't learned how to walk. Like there's no need for those things, so they got access to these things. So maybe, the younger kids have more access to this concept of spirituality before even the concept, before you even get the thought or the word spirituality. They understand the feeling. They know how to embody it. They know how to walk it, talk it, feel it. They know how to show it. They know how to, embody these emotions of love and, benevolence and things like that, and purity, before they actually gain structure and learn structure. So it's like, and then you got people with wisdom, the older people, or people who, you don't necessarily have to be old. Sometimes experience can lead to wisdom. Sometimes accidents can lead to wisdom. Sometimes the wrong thing can lead to wisdom. Doing the wrong thing, and then atonement. That's why atonement comes. You did so much wrong that now you want to atone because you have a deep desire to get back on the right path. So it's like all these ways, that energy flows, or the concept of energy flows, the concept of consciousness flows, that you just, the ones that want to stay on the way, that never wanted to divert from the way. Like, that's what the concept of mercy, the concept of hoping that, the concept of forgiveness, of hoping that love and compassion still exists, so that, in hopes that mercy finds you, for when you mess up. And, sometimes it might happen by yourself. It might happen by yourself. It might not be, you don't have to be in the public to do it, but, the whole concept of repenting, that's why that exists. So again, remember, I'm saying all this to say the silver lining, the silver lining, being able to apply that through everything, through interactions, through each interaction, through each thought that comes your way, through each feeling and desire that comes your way, through each emotion that comes your way, through the listening, through active listening, through active observation, through active meditation. You gotta meditate when you're listening. You gotta be mindful when you're listening. You gotta meditate when you're observing. You gotta be mindful when you're observing. You gotta be mindful when you're intaking. What you're intaking, the food that you're intaking. You gotta be mindful of what you're putting into your body, because, I think if the body is meant to be a temple of higher learning, then I don't think, then what takes you high? To say that somebody is high is to understand what it means to be high. So what is taking you high in the first place? What are some things that make you feel good? Feeling good is a higher vibration, I think. What are some high vibrational thoughts? What are some high vibrational foods? What are, you don't see electricity on the ground, you see electricity in the sky. Sometimes I've heard some people associate the sky to being the heaven realm. So if that's looking outwards, that's you got to use your eyes to see the sky. When you close your eyes, there's the concept, I've heard some people say that heaven is in the mind. So if you're in your, think about people that are blind. They've never seen anything outwards, but there's some people that are blind that have heightened sensitivity. They have heightened senses. You know, think about the blind samurai, or, and I say that very carefully, but think about people who understand the importance of senses, so they do the inner work to, train the senses because they understand the value of it. They understand that, and I would only think there are people, the only ones that can relate to that are the people who either lost it due to an accident, or maybe they weren't born with it due to an accident from previous lifetime. But I say that very carefully. But I'm just saying that again, the heaven state of mind, can the heaven state of mind be found from within? That concept of nirvana, the concept of, complete bliss. And, the people who are always on edge, who are always looking for extremes, the adrenaline rushers, it's people who are climbing to the top of mountains, who are rock climbing, who are, doing 10,000 reps, who are, reading 10,000 books, who are, creating 6-hour films, who are completely locked into their craft, who are, these people who are extreme, the people who are, studying the inner body, the doctors, the cardio, these people that are in that, the firefighters, the nature preservers, the people who understand how to train animals and communicate with animals, the people who understand language and different dialects. Like, these are things that are like, we get exposed to it, but it's not normal. It is something that's awe-inspiring, is what I would like to think. It's like somebody who can speak multiple languages, I find that inspiring. When I say inspiring, it makes me feel appreciative, not envious, not jealous, but appreciative, to understand that, you got a serious talent, a serious skill, and I say this very carefully, when you start throwing money, the person who came up with the concept of money was like, I'm sure that was something that was meant to be good. The people who understood that maybe somebody had value and they were trying to just create more value. But, you got some people who come in and just, why are you disrupting? So, I guess maybe it's because what I'm doing right now, I carefully say, this whole experience that whoever's listening to this right now, there might still be flaws in everything that I've said. I'm hoping that there isn't any flaws, because I'm hoping that this can be played back and listened to and be like, man, this can be a stamp of like alignment towards something good. This is going to help more people than hurt people. So I can only say that because I'm still reflecting. I'm still here. I'm still experiencing. I'm still thinking about what to do with my time while I'm here. I'm still thinking about what needs to be done. So again, the silver lining, this all stemmed from the concept of like spirituality and the concept of provision and opening the right door, choosing the door, the idea that reality is malleable, the idea that reality, once you get a certain level of understanding, you're using consciousness as material, you're using nature as a force that can be applied to the material of consciousness, to the material of chi, the material of life force, the material of energy, And so moving forward, the heaven state of mind, you don't see electricity on the ground, but I'm not saying that the ground is a bad place to be. There are a lot of miraculous things that exist on the ground. So I'm just saying that you find electricity in the sky. Why is electricity in the sky? You know, it is a phenomenon of the sky. It just simply, it is. I didn't put it there, but it is something that's in the sky. When you think about electricity flowing through the body, the neural pathways that are in the brain, it's just up there. Are you saying that the feet is not as important as the brain? That's something to carefully consider. Each part has its each part has its own potential to become high value, high level of importance. The head, unless you turn yourself upside down, the head can never truly interact with the ground unless you do a handstand or do a headstand. The feet is naturally on the ground. The feet is naturally the medium between the earth or the grass and the rest of the body. So the feet is the medium, it's the middle ground. So what I'm saying is like that energy flow, whatever the earth has to touch, it has to interact with the feet, and then that in turn, depending on your level of awareness, you're going to either spiral that energy, have some spiraling thoughts, or that golden ratio, or some people might be more mathematical with it. Depending on which you embody, you're going to apply it. Some people are going to, just like how I'm talking, somebody might be getting this same signal, and they might be just painting. They might not have said a word, but they're creating the experience. They're visually expressing what I'm speaking on. Some people may be doing sign language because they that's what they're good at. So this experience that I'm experiencing right now, I'm just channeling it with a phone, because I got a phone right next to me. I got the ability to press record, and I'm just hearing it, I'm speaking it, I'm transferring the energy to something that I could potentially play back and then build upon, refine upon. And I would have to make a decision on saying that this is a complete thought, a complete action. Don't build on it any further, or keep building on it. So again, silver lining. And I just want to add that my body has started to vibrate like crazy. Not crazy, but my body's starting to vibrate. My hands are vibrating. It wasn't doing this before I started. It started vibrating through the conversation. I guess I'm charging myself up with the word gratitude. But yeah, I'm saying this to say that being able to question everything that you're being exposed to, I think is advanced, and be careful with it. Because again, as you move forward throughout this life, you are going to have more experiences. You're going to have more moments to reflect, more moments to make more choices, and more desires are going to hit you. And when I say hit you, I mean you're going to interact like this. You're going to be able to embrace it. You're going to be able to observe it, either with your eyes or through your senses, through physical sense, physical touch, auditory, visually, taste. So again, like when it coming back to taste, and what I'm realizing is that when you incorporate these words, like these senses, you're able to come back to your true self, through the conversation when you venture out. So you venture out, words in different dialect is how you venture out. Senses is how you come back to the source, because I'm realizing that I'm able to keep my thoughts and continue this by having stamps. These stamps are like pencils. Think about the inner world. So it's honestly it is this seems like a miracle. This seems like a miracle. Honestly. The food that you put in your body, water. If you think about how long it takes to grow something, think about the person that comes into this world, into existing, and they got to go out and look for energy. Maybe they came fully energized, and maybe they interacted with something that drained them. So then they had to look for something that would fuel them or get them back to that energetic state. They maybe run into a tree, they maybe run into grass, they pick up grass, they get energized, they start thinking, they start feeling. They maybe run into an animal for the first time. Might be a squirrel, might be a bird, might be an insect. They start learning how to interact, they question, they gotta make a decision to either destroy or build or not interact. Hopefully you don't harm. Hopefully you let whatever is there be. So something had to be put into the body for you to understand that that thing is life. You understood the concept. You understood the value of life before you even understood how to communicate verbal language. You understood the value of someone else having life and how important it was before you understood how to actually communicate with that person. So with that being said, it's like you may have even understood it in the tree. You understood how to just sit down and just be. You understood energy flow. You were able to see energy flow is what I'm thinking. Like you can see energy, you can see aura, you can see these things that, I'm speaking about it, but it's because my eyes are closed right now and I'm visually seeing this. But I'm in the here and now where right now I'm in a time where houses exist in what I'd like to say it in an abundant way. Technology exists in abundance. The internet exists in abundance. People exist in abundance. We run into the male and the man and the woman exist in abundance. Children exist in abundance. Books exist. Cars exist in abundance. There's a lot of things that exist now that certain features or certain guides or certain people would say wasn't previously abundant. They had to go through a certain level of work. Certain people had to build on certain levels. There were certain things that needed to be accomplished and learned in order to get this level of abundance. And why? Because I guess it was a need for it. But I exist in this time period, And so when we talk about time, how much time do I have here? How much time do I have left? Is what I'm thinking about. What does time operate under? Maybe it operates, maybe who understands time? How long has time existed? How long has other things existed? Like that we can say has existed just as long as time has. The sky, the sun, the moon, who knows? Some people question that. How long has the sun exist? How long has space exist? How long has gravity existed? How long has these things that we can't touch existed, like time? Time is intangible, but maybe to just the way that I communicate, or maybe it's intangible to my level of alignment within my level of understanding when I observe things, my level of intent when I observe. my level of appreciation when I observe, my level of, wanting to stay in alignment, because, when I open up social media, is that level of awareness that I know that, there are people who have said that, don't hold the phone for too long. Don't stare at the phone for too long. It could be harmful for your eyes. It's like, why do people have glasses? Why do people have to go and get surgery on their eyes? Why do people have to go and get, uh, you know, same thing with dentists. Why do dentists exist? Why do these physicians or people who are specialized in treating these areas or returning them back to their original state? And that's really what it is. It's like they're using tools to return the body back to its original state of not destroying itself, but back to a natural state of like a neutral state or an enhanced state. So it's like you return back to neutral or you become enhanced. When you become enhanced, what do you do with enhancement? What do you do with advancement? What do you do with advanced levels of understanding or of biochemistry? What do you do with advanced levels of bioengineering, it's fusion at a certain point. It is fusion. I say that carefully. Gratitude for whoever's listening. Peace and blessings for whoever is. Peace and blessings for whoever's listening. With that, I hope you found something helpful from this experience. Tap into the next one. Peace.